Everyone will stay muted during the presentation. There will be question and answer during the course of the presentation. Please put any questions you may have into the chat to be answered during those times. The slides and recording will be made available to all participants. Close to the end of the presentation, a survey link will be put into the chat, and we would appreciate you completing that before you leave the webinar today. Thank you. Next slide, please. Today's webinar objectives include number 1, meeting the OIED Division of Economic Development team, Grants Management team, and the Tribal Technical Assistance team. Number 2, to provide an overview on the Living Languages Grant Program application requirements. And number 3, question and answer opportunities will be offered during the webinar with the OIED and Tribal Tech staff. Now I will turn it over to Denise Litz, who is the Division of Economic Branch Chief. Thank you, Denise.
Joanne Eskenahay, greetings everyone. I'm so glad that you've all joined for our pre-application webinar about our Living Languages grant. As she expressed, my name is Denise Litz, and I'm the Chief for the Division of Economic Development. I'm originally from the Tuscarora Nation. We're located about 10 miles north of Niagara Falls, New York, but I am joining you where I work remotely from Stafford, Virginia. So it's a pleasure to have all of you joining us. I just wanted to take an opportunity to share a little bit about our office. The Office of Indian Economic Development, our director is Anna LeBeau. She's from the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in our Division of Economic Development, there are 2 teams in the division. The first is the Economic Development Specialist team, and the second is our Grants Management team. Next slide, please. So our Economic Development Specialists, we have 3 staff. Janelle Green covers Alaska and Southwest zones, and you'll see on the map, that's the states that are covered in red. She is from Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Jim Henry is Maidu, and he covers the Northwest zone. You'll see those are the states that are highlighted in green. And then we have Rebecca Horsechief, who's Osage and Pawnee. She covers the Eastern zone, and those are the states that are highlighted in blue. Next slide, please. So our grants management team, Elizabeth Callahan is from the Choctaw Nation. She's our program analyst. And we have Dennis Wilson, who is Taos Pueblo. He's our grants management specialist. And then Melanie Welsh is Alaskan Yupik Eskimo, and she is our grants management contractor. These individuals are the ones that support all 5 of our grant programs. They help us with website content, and then the 5 programs that we award grants to for the year. Next slide, please. So Tribal Tech, I will turn this over, Kelly, if you guys want to introduce yourselves. Tribal Tech is our technical assistance provider, and we're proud to have them as a part of our team. Kelly?
Thank you, Denise. Yes, everyone, my name is Kelly LaChance, and I am a citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz of Oregon. I am from the Northern California, Southern Oregon Shasta, and from the Southern Oregon Dakota. I am the Training and Technical Assistance Coordinator, Native Language Specialist, and I am talking with you today from the Muskogee Creek country in Oklahoma. Fred?
Hello, everyone. My name is Freddie Gibb. I'm an enrolled member of the Apache Tribe of Oklahoma. I'm born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas, where I currently am at. And I serve as the Training and Technical Assistance Coordinator and Business Development Specialist with Tribal Tech LLC. And I'm glad that you're all here today and excited to get started.
Thank you. And next slide, please. At this time, we will turn it over to Dennis.
Thanks, Dr. LaChance. Good morning. My name is Dennis Wilson. I'm Taos Pueblo. I'm the Grant Management Specialist. I'm remote located here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A little bit about myself. Previous to this life, I was with Fish and Wildlife Service. Before that, Bureau of Reclamation. Keep walking it back to appraisals, to Land Titles and Records Office, BIA. So in my 20 years, seen a lot of realty and did a lot of grants in the later part of this life. So this is exciting. I'm glad to be here at kind of the tip of the sword and being able to work with tribes one-on-one. This has been about 20 months I've been here, coming up on 2 years in October. A lot of us are fairly new to this organization. So a lot of the processes we're fine-tuning, seeing where we can improve, become efficient, become effective, and just get a fast-moving ship. So I came on board in October of 21. In December of 21, we were just ready to close on the language grant for that first cohort, or the second cohort, sorry. For those of you that are familiar with our previous renditions of the LLGP, those were a lot of restoration. Those were a lot of preservation. The focus was 1 year period of performance with, you could do a lot with it. This time around, we moved towards more immersion. We started, just a little bit about the genesis of this. We started reaching out when we knew we were going to go big and go deep with a lot of the tribes. We started outreach to those that are in the field, those that are actually doing this, and the front runners, the subject matter experts, and had just blanket questions. If you had the best grant available, what would you do? Obviously, the answer was no competition, unlimited funding. And apart from that, what else could we do? So, true to OIED grant format, we tried to keep the limits on the handling to a minimum, reporting, eligibility, etc. We kept it as static as possible, tried to stay out of your way. And so we started drafting a pretty good NOFO. We updated the format, as you've noticed. It looks more like a FOA. So it should be a little bit easier to read, more what you're used to when you're coming from grants.gov. But right around that time, we started the tribal consultations for the 10-year National Language Revitalization Plan. And that mirrored almost what we were doing. So we merged the two. So if you know very well the 10-year national plan, if you're at the Native Language Summit, if you've been part of those tribal consultations, when you read the NOFO, it's just gonna sound exactly what we've been talking about for the last year. So that's the good news. So we finally got it approved and out, and it was offered May 15th. It's going to close August 18th. And we have pre-application training available through Tribal Tech, who's putting this on. We couldn't be doing this without them, so we thank them for all their help. Also want to thank our team for putting this together. There was a lot of back and forth just to get this out. So we're happy to be at this point in time. Anything that's covered today, whether it be on this, anything anybody said or anything in this PowerPoint, please reference the NOFO. That will be the document by which we will go by. Everything is going to go off that NOFO. So when in doubt, refer back to the NOFO. If you have any questions, let us know, let me know. But please reference that. You have me for the next 20 minutes or so. So what I'm going to try to do is frame what we're covering in the NOFO with the parameters that we would like to see for your particular project program. At the end, Dr. LaChance and Mr. Gipp are going to follow up with those parameters in the criteria form. So what you read in the beginning of the NOFO, it's going to slide right through to the criteria, which is good. Because when you submit your application and you get into the ranking phase, I'm out of the picture. So all the rankers, those that will be doing that portion of it, will reference the NOFO. So do go back to the NOFO as much as possible. Check every box. We even have a little checklist in there for help. So anyway, we'll start rolling with this. It is a competitive discretionary grant program. We are under We follow the lead of our grant officer, Joe Metcalf. She's been pivotal with continuing from those that came on new to where we're at now to keep us in consistent, which is the cornerstone of every grant program. So next slide, please. The National Plan of Revitalization was kind of the corner, the draft plan that came out in September. That is which will be basing a lot of what the research we did to get this far, to make sure we cover all these points. It's bent on 4 pillars: awareness, recognition, integration, support. If you're in the NOFO, you'll have a link to that. At some point, it will no longer be a draft form, so that link may not work. However, if you go to the White House Council webpage, which I think is in the NOFO as well, you should see the finalized version. How that led to our grants was we knew we were going to award upwards of 5.7 million. So we're going to equate that to about 18 to 22 grants, a ceiling of 250,000, or in the floor, and a ceiling of 300,000. If you've put in for our grants in the past, you'll notice our tourism was the last 1-year grant. Going forward, they're all going to be 2 years or longer. This, we're going to get up to 3 years. So that way we just have more time. You could go deep in a lot of your programs, build towards sustainability, and do what we can to keep this moving forward. We will have to base this on a competitive evaluation process. We'll get in a little bit later on that. We can only accept 1 application per tribe, tribal org, tribal consortia. Again, you're going to hear all of community throughout the NOFO and throughout this presentation. So we want to see you touch on every piece of your community, make this project community-based. Hopefully we're out of your way because you know what you need within the confines of 2 CFR 200 and our grant programs. Try to make your program as successful as possible. Next slide. I had these pages switched, so I did cover this real quick. The 4 pillars: awareness, recognition, integration, and support. Next slide. The olive community structure. Most of you are going to base your language curriculum on a known immersion model. We'll get into that in a little bit. And if you're going to do that, by all means use it, but it is a base. You will pretty much use it and tailor it towards what you're going to be doing. And with this, by the end of the 3-year term, hopefully we're trying to build towards the sustainability in some form or fashion. Obviously that we can't make any promises, but we do what we can within our tool belt. Next slide, please. So all the immersion models, we have just a few listed through the NOFO. There's a plethora out there. So anything that you're going to use, just identify it. And pretty much an immersion model instruction through a immersion model where the native language is taught through the primary English is used at a bare minimum, if ever. We're going to see that a lot. We try to have the LLGP as well as the rest of our grant programs build towards capacity, increasing your capacity, and this is no different. So any immersion model you're going to be utilizing, just make sure you come with your research, you come with your documentation, and how you're going to tailor it towards your particular situation. Next slide. So the all community connection, you're going to see in the different parameter sections, touching on a lot of these key points, and you're going to see these mirrored in the 10-year plan. Everything from agriculture, art and culture, conservation, all the way through public safety. Do you have to touch on everything is going to be a big question. Well, I would reference their criteria and see what you're going to be ranked on. Your particular project will be ranked on, and do what you can to touch on that. Obviously, if there is 0 agriculture in your area, how are you going to respond to that? Otherwise, The Olive community approach will be to rope in as much of these entities in your community as possible, create those partnerships, because you never know where you're going to have to put on your healthcare hat, or your you run into any kind of challenges like abuse or job insecurity or food insecurity, and different up and coming ventures that are happening. You may want to rope those in, create those relationships, and have it part of your package. So the Olive community approach will be everything in your community. Some may be subsections, so that will be completely up to you. Next section, next slide, please. Section. Some of the examples of the baseline immersion models. I know most of you are familiar with most all of these. So by all means, is this not the total list? Use what you need, start where you need to start. That way you get off on the right foot. Next slide. Breadth of plan criteria. So after you identify your different model you're going to be working off of, this is where you're going to start developing different areas of those age groups. Some start in the womb, all the way to distance learning, remote. It's completely up to you. There's not going to be one size fits all. There's going to be everything from access to technological issues to cultural taboos. So do answer those breadth of criteria sections that are in the NOFO, because those have been identified throughout the research process. So we do want to see a plan on those. Even if you combine some, break some out a little further, by all means, do what you need to do. But we do need to see the addressing of the breadth of plan. As you can tell, the language was lifted right off of the 10-year plan. So we're trying to remain consistent there. Next slide, please. So I think that runs through the NOFO for the first 5 or 6 pages. Do look at those in depth, see how they're translated into criteria. More than likely, they just walked right over. So that's the first door, making sure your application has everything it needs to be. We're going to lead a little bit more into that with a complete application. But I feel my job as the grant management specialist is to make sure 2 things. One, you demonstrate your eligibility and you get through that door, and then you have a complete application. So if I'm successful at those 2, then you're off to the ranking phase, and I feel I did my due diligence. So pertinent eligibility, read the eligibility definition, demonstrate that. If you're a federally recognized tribe and you're on the List Act, I think it changes every January, so it will be still under the 87 FR 4636. That'll be in the NOFO. That came out January 28th. So if you're in that as a federally recognized tribe, you're good. Tribal organization, tribal consortia, read our definition, talk to your legal counsel if need be, demonstrate it to the best of your ability. We can't provide pre-eligibility determinations. We got recommended by our leadership and our legal counsel not to do that, because we don't know your backstory. We don't have all your documentations to make just a call on an email or over the phone. And then now we're caught hanging on that. So please demonstrate that. Talk to your legal counsel. If you still have questions, let us know. We'll do what we can to help you. I know nobody wants to waste time putting an application if you're not eligible, but it should be pretty clear. After your eligibility, there's the eligibility portion in the systems. One is your UEI, your unique entity identifier. We're going to talk about that later on the forms. That UEI must be registered in sam.gov. You should be on the vendor table in FBMS. And we need you current, your UEI current 6 months after the closing date. So into February of next year, please. If we don't see that, we may flag you and have a quick conversation, because we don't know how long we're going to take. We move as fast as we can, but there's some things out of our control. So if your UEI is expired and your SAMS registration is expired before we can award, we got a major hurdle that we may not be able to get over. So just to avoid all that, which you could tell we've done that in the past, we just asked to ensure your UEI is registered SAM.gov into February. BIA ASAP registration, make sure you're registered in ASAP for BIA. ASAP in general won't cut it. And we'll know that recipient ID must be attached to your UEI, the current one. Please ensure that that box is checked as well. And if you want the gold star, you want to jump on things, if you're not already in grant solutions, go ahead and enroll. Identify roles that you will have for your particular grantee, for the PIPD, the GAO. That would really, really help. If not, we'll be running that down. And we'll get into that a little bit later on the forms. A couple more things with this grant. There is no cost or match requirement. And we need everything by the close by August 18th. So everything has to be done before the close of the solicitation window. And thankfully, Dr. LaChance and Freddie, they put the NOFO pages so you can reference those. Next slide, please. Again, SAM registration, if you haven't gone in there, it's pretty easy. Their help desk is pretty responsive, although it may take a month or two. So if you don't have that done yet, you've got plenty of time. Just make sure and get that done. There's even an expedited, of course, comes with a fee, but there is an expedited option. Next slide. Grants.gov registration, that is our official application window, so you must be registered there. Everything's in there. You could register for the CFDA number, which I think is going to change to acronym to ALN. However, you can register and get anything that comes in under those CFDA numbers you get notice for. All the forms are there, forms that we will utilize for application as well as post-award reporting and all that. So that will be in there. So it's a great resource. Next slide, please. Here is a snapshot of the link on grants.gov. Excuse the second synopsis. We pushed a couple buttons and we just wanted to make sure it was right. But it should cover everything we just talked about, as well as the package forms, as well as a link to the FOA, NOFO in the related documents. Next slide, please. I think we kind of covered all of that. So if you have any questions, let us know. Just pre-register, just get everything done is what you need, especially your UEI and SAMS. I can't stress that one enough. And your ASAP BIA registration. Next slide, please. So in the NOFO, I can't remember what page it's on, but there's kind of a checklist, and this is kicks this off as well. A lot of these forms are mandatory. So when you go through the application process, you will have no choice but to fill those out. However, it is on each applicant to make darn sure every form was submitted appropriately. You should get some kind of receipt. And then at the end, you should have a total, what was submitted. Make sure each form's in there. Make sure everything's filled out. No, there's no blanks. This has caused us some hiccups in the past. Going forward, if need be, you can embed some of these forms. So fill it out, pull down a form online or down to your local desktop, fill it out, attach it, embed it if you have room. I know we have a 50-page limit, so if you could fit it in there, great. Redundancy, that's not a problem as long as it's consistent. But, you know, a cover page and you could see all these forms. A lot of them are grants.gov, a lot of them are ours. SF424A, don't use B. We can at any point have anything construction or construction related. So if you have questions on that, let us know, but everything is non-construction. So some key highlights, grantee meeting, that's big. We're gonna have our first one in August for our previous cohorts, not this one. However, going forward every year, we will have grantee meetings, so we need a budget for that. Pretty detailed. So we'll get into that a little bit later here. Attachments. We do need some kind of tribal resolution or tribal authorization letter. I know in lieu of, some tribes don't have that capacity to do resolution. That's the strongest definition or strongest demonstration of tribal approval. So we do need that kind of document to show that you have the full support of the tribal body and the community in general. So please have that. Keep contacts, as many as you can. Try to mirror those which are going to be on the SF424, as well as what you feel are going to be in grant solutions. That'll be a seamless approach. That way, the notifications, the notice of award, or the notice of a pending award, the notice of award and grant solutions, all of that will go to those that have been identified, so that there's no slippage. We're not sending it to the grant writer who's not in communication with those that are going to implement or facilitate the grant. COI, single audit, make sure you're good on that. If you've had past grants with us, make sure you're current on your reporting. We will look at that now. Overlap and duplication. This can't duplicate anything that's already been done or currently being done with other federal funding. And for the first time, we do have IDC. So indirect cost statement allowance. So please submit your agreement with your cognizant agency and apply it correctly in your budget. Got any questions, let us know. Next slide, please. Key points of the required form. Next slide, please. Cover page is self-explanatory. Just put it all on there. Everything that you need, and that's listed here. It's probably the same in the NOFO. So if you have it all there, you're good to go. Next slide, please. Cover letter, please don't exceed 1 page. Just summarize your intent and interests. This is helpful, especially if we need a 2 or 3 page summary of your program. We could just cut and paste. So make it nice and pretty and as detailed as you want, and something that you don't mind sharing with the outside world if awarded. So this is a good document, even though it's just, one of many. And then signatures of leadership, please. That's really strong. Next slide, please. So let's get into some of these forms. I know this isn't the funnest thing to do, but for me, we need everything in here as detailed as possible, how you want it. That way we can always reference back to this. We don't have to run anything down. So some of these highlighted, some important things are not highlighted, but we're going to get into this. Please fill this out in its entirety. Obviously this is new. Everything else through 1 through 8. Your application information, legal name. If you can, please put your list stack name if you're a federally recognized tribe as it appears on that. When it comes to notice of award, we will have to use that. So we might as well just start off with that name, even if you go by something else. Or, obviously if you're a tribal organization, you're going to have something different. But if you're applying as the tribe, if you put that in there, great. It'll save us time. But when we respond, it'll be the list stack name. 8C is the biggest thing, the UEI. I know it's not highlighted. It should be in big highlighted sparkly letters. Please make sure that's correct. It's current 6 months after August, so into February. It's in your vendor table with FBMS. It's attached to the ASAP BIA number, and we won't have any problems. The bottom of this page, F. I would highly stress that this person be that who is going to facilitate and administer the grant, your programmatic person that's going to do the narrative reports, the one that's the POC, the one we'll be talking to on a monthly basis sometimes. Put that person here, and that would be fantastic. Next slide, please. This page, fill it out in its entirety. It's pretty self-explanatory. Next slide, please. Make up some time here. This final page, a couple points for sure. The congressional district, we get hit with data calls now and again, so we want to make sure that the county, that was in slide 1, don't go back, but make sure the county is correct from where you're going to be doing the majority of the work. And that will correspond to your congressional district. please put that in clearly. That way I could just cut and paste and we'll use it in our data. Please leave 17 blank, start and end date. You don't know that. We don't even know that. We won't know that until probably a week of. We're shooting for this calendar year very, very strongly. We're going to see how fast we could do this. We have all hands on deck. So we'll have a lot of folks working on this. As soon as we get to each phase, we're just going to sprint right through it. So leave that blank because in Grant Solutions, we'll have to fix that. It'll pull that information. If it makes you fill something out, just, I guess, put something in. But if it lets you leave it blank, leave it blank. 18A, federal funding. So to rope back on this, and then Jerry, to answer that question as well, we are only doing for the SF424 the first year. So it would be 300,000 for this first year. You would get 300,000 every year, and in your budget, when we get into that, you'll be showing us a 3-year budget, so a $900,000 grant, right? But for this form, we only need the first year. So, you know, I should only see an 18A federal, 250 to 300,000. That's it. There should be nothing in B. There is no match. So your A total should go down to G. Authorized representative, this should be your tribal leader. That which probably is going to sign your cover letter, the leader of your organization. Please put their title, how they like to be corresponded with, because we'll use that as well. Sometimes we have to look that up, but it's nice when it's already in there, you know, chairman versus council, tribal chairman, governor, etc. Next slide, please. This form, you should probably just do the one row, the number 1 row, and you know your CFDA number is 15.032. You would fill out column F, or I'm sorry, federal E column. That'll transfer over to total, and again that should be 250, 300,000 or somewhere in between. Next slide, please. This gets a little bit more personal, and you're probably only going to fill out the first column. It's going to copy into the total 5th column, but please fill this out. This helps us if we have to do any amendments and any kind of adjustments with your budget. If you already have the object class category, we might be able to do it without a full amendment, especially if it's under the de minimis 10%. But if they already exist, it makes things a lot easier. Your personnel and fringe, self-explanatory, travel. This for sure row will be your grantee travel. So at a minimum, I should see at least 5,000 or 6,000 in there for 2 people to travel for that next year's grantee meeting. If you have any consultants or contractor travel that the tribe or the applicant will pay for, that would be in this column as well. If not, roll that into their contractual area. Equipment and supplies, I can't remember the 2 CFR 200 citation off the top of my head. I should, I apologize, but it is in the NOFO. Be cognizant of if you need any equipment, supplies, that differentiate between the two, their useful life, obviously cost threshold, competitive selection of those pieces, and you know, just make sure it's used through the life of this grant only. Sometimes it's better to rent versus purchase, because then you return it and there's no issues. We should see nothing in F. I'm sorry, G. Nothing in G whatsoever, please. F, if you're using contractors, consultants in any way, please put that there. H, other, please explain that in detail. Indirect costs, obviously the first time, so we may see stuff there. And then total and K. Next slide, please. This will walk over a lot of these totals. For forecasting need in section D, we'll probably do half up front to keep in uniform with how we've been doing grants. ASAP has a hold on all our grants when you get it, so you have to communicate with us to complete the drawdowns. So we usually like to do half up front, so you can put half in the first quarter, half in the second quarter after the first 6 month or 6 month reports are due. That makes things easier. If you get to that point, you're selected, awarded, and we need to talk other frequencies of drawdowns, we'll do that then. Otherwise, your row 21 and 22 will fill out, and then remarks, if any. Next slide, please. Abstract narrative, again, fill this out as much as possible. We like to cut and paste from this, so this does help. Any attachments, just have the naming convention like was in the NOFO. That helps. Next slide, please. Same with budget. Next slide. Attachments. If you need to attach anything, tribal authorization, tribal resolution, your IDC agreement. If you want to throw stuff in addenda, this is the place to do it. Again, it's on the applicant to make sure it loaded. I can't stress that enough. Embed it if you have to for redundancy, but just make sure you get to that point. Next slide, please. Key contacts. We kind of covered this. Have folks in here that are going to be your programmatic for 1, financial, fiscal 2, tribal leader 3, and then any other folks that you want in here. Sometimes you have paired roles, multiple people wearing multiple hats like the rest of us. Put them in here. Try to be consistent as possible with names, etc. It does help. And if these people are the same that are going to be in grant solutions that we see on the SF424, that's even better. I think we're at the end of more of these budget forms, but just to kind of recap, be as detailed as possible. Flesh everything out in your budget narrative, in your budget internal spreadsheets. I know you can only do it so much on the SF424 and 424A. But we need to see that as detailed as possible. Don't round too high. I'd round to the dollar at least, please, no pennies. We had to deal with that. That was no fun. So at least to the nearest dollar, if tens of dollars. But otherwise, don't blanket like travel grantee for 6,000. No, we kind of need that broken down, and we have it for GSA rates for Washington, DC on purpose because it is one of the higher areas. So if we go anywhere else, which we will, at least we kind of have that high threshold. But we need to see that for planning purposes and to check that box. So that is at the end of my slides. And I'll come back on later. And Dr. LaChance, Mr. Gipp, it's yours.
Thank you, Dennis. At this time, we'll take some questions on the information that Dennis had gone through. Please put those in the chat. We do have some questions already. One question is, and I'll defer this to Dennis or any other OIED staff. Are LEAs eligible to apply with tribal support, or does the application need to be written by the tribe with LEA support?
Again, I'm cautious on responding without knowing your particular LEA definition. However, do talk to the tribe. If the tribe would apply, and the tribe could always subaward. A tribe can always have consultants, contractors. I know that doesn't help with IDC sometimes, but if you want to absolutely ironclad, make sure you're eligible, that's the way to go. But look at that definition. We had that to the word ran through our solicitors. Actually, it was given by our solicitors to make sure that it does encompass federally recognized tribes, tribal organizations as defined by 25, what is it? 25 USC 5304 L. So read that. And in that, it does have a component of, it kind of circles back to making sure you have tribal authorization. So, that kind of is where we get that as well. So email me, Woody, if you need, but otherwise I would just take that and run with that. Dr. LaChance, you want me to go through those questions real quick?
Sure. Yeah, we have some really great questions
Sure.
here. Yes.
Dave, good. Thanks for pointing that out. PDF it if you can. Kelly, same thing. Not all colleges are created equal. We went through that with IBIP, our incubator grant, which had a educational component. It would be best if the tribe applies, but that doesn't say we haven't awarded to other educational type entities for language. So do talk with your legal counsel on that. If not, email me and we can kind of help you out a little bit more without telling you directly you're good to go. You may not ever hear that from us, but we'll try to guide you in that direction. Jerry, I seen that when we were talking about the budget. It is for the first year. So for that first year, SF 424, 424A, just have the 250 to 300,000. But in your budget, in your application, we want to see all 3 years. So we want to see all those broken down, because what you're going to use funding wise in year one won't be the same as 2, definitely not 3. So you're going to be doing different things as you progress and grow and your capacity builds. So we do need to see that. And when we re-up at the end of the first year, we're going to reference that, see if there's any tweaking, but there shouldn't be. The one thing about, and to keep in mind with this, a discretionary competitive grant program, we cannot change the statement of work. Now that causes problems with the 3-year grant because you may do a little bit tweaking. Plus we don't award all at one time. So we have to do it piece by piece. But your overall structure, your statement of work cannot change. You'll see that in the NOFO. So please be cognizant of that. Again, we could do tweakings here and there, but we can't change and pivot and make, change on a dime through this at all.
Another question was, is a tribal college eligible to apply as an organization, or does it need to be from a tribe?
I just tackled that one indirectly. Again, Kelly, email us if you need. Does a tribal consortium need a tribal resolution from all tribes they serve, or a resolution from the consortium board of directors suffice? There's a couple questions in there. Yes. That would help. If you could get a resolution from all tribes, that's even better. If you could get a resolution from the board of the leadership of all those tribes, that's great. If you can do tribal authorization letters from each one, that's better. What we don't want is you on behalf of a tribe doing work with their language, or with them in their language that it's not authorized, if that makes sense. So if you're going to be representing multiple tribes, it's best to try to ring that in. If a tribe is already a grantee, are they eligible to apply again? Yes, it just will be a completely different project, a completely different everything. So make sure none of that is duplicative. Can a native nonprofit apply? Again, that's like a lot of these questions are eligibility, which, we almost cannot answer, but do email us. We'll try to give you what you can, give you a little bit more insight on the definitions and something at least take to your legal counsel. If the IDC cap is 17.5 only for cooperative ecosystem unit networks, otherwise no caps. Good question. We'll have to dig into that specifically for you there, Jackie. We are implementing IDC for the first time, so there's going to be a little bit bumpiness, but the key is going to be the cognizant agency and then how that applies per each object class category. So there may be threshold limitations for sure. It won't be across the board. 477, yes, we want to know that up front. We would have to work with that office. So if that is something you're planning, by all means, let us know well ahead of time. It'll save a lot of work, a lot of issues. Thanks there, Margaret. Eric, your question's kind of the same as France sees there about if you've had a grant in the past or with another federal program, it just cannot be the same. So, and I can't stress that enough. We can't have any duplication. We're starting to collaborate more and share data. So if we see you as a grantee, we're going to kind of dig into that a little bit more. And it just helps if you're just upfront with it all. Darlene, good catch. Rounding should be avoided. Round very, very low, tens, hundreds. Don't round thousands. We've seen just, we needed a grantee budget, but you just put 6,000 in there with nothing broken down. At least break that down. Break down your per diem, just like any other travel authorization. Just break that kind of stuff down. And when you get to those pennies, round it up to the tens, 20s. Hopefully I answered that one. And if there's more questions, we'll have another session here in the next few minutes.
Yes, thank you. We will have another Q&A session. So thank you, everyone. And please continue to put those questions into the chat. At this time, next slide. And we'll turn this back over to Dennis.
Okay. We are going to use the ARM system within Grant Solutions, the application review module. We've used it this year. They're great folks. They pay non-federal reviewers. Most of them all have subject matter expertise. They're going to read these applications and score them based on our criteria that we identified in the NOFO, and we're limited it to the NOFO. So please don't include links for additional information in your application, because they can't click on that and they can't review that. Everything that you're going to be ranked and reviewed on will be in the application. So cover everything, go through the checklist, make sure you don't leave any points on the table, is the minimum. So go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Next slide, please. We're going to cover Fred and I, the criterion scoring overview. There is 12 criteria that we'll go over. Next slide, please. There we are. So as Dennis had explained, the criterion, Fred and I are going to go over some key points to help you in that process as you go through this criteria for your proposal applications. So starting off with criterion 1, which is immersion model identification, you want to utilize a known language model as the basis for your grant proposal. The model will serve as the framework to guide how the project will address your community-specific language needs and language instruction. Be sure and identify collaboration, curriculum resource sharing, and shared instruction materials from collaborations. You are also encouraged to include reference materials and guidelines by which your model will be referenced from. Also, clearly demonstrate that the model will carry out the various sections of the all-of community structure in the statement of work. And of course, any model will be considered as a starting point as long as it addresses the unique and specific needs of your tribal community. Next slide, please. So criterion 2, the breadth of plan. This should entail a comprehensive, detailed plan for the immersion project. You are encouraged to provide any baseline information and language survey data that has been utilized in the past and will support any immersion model baseline examples. Also identify the various plans for each group segment that you want to focus on. This includes focusing, of course, on which individual age group your proposal will be on. And again, those age groups are early childhood, elementary, middle school, high school, and post-secondary. Tribal communities, of course, you'll address your own needs that determine why and how to combine different group segments. And successful applications will demonstrate programming for those age groups. Next slide, please. So criterion 3 covers the budget, the FTE, and FTE allocation. And this should demonstrate that the program will have qualified and vetted staff with the necessary licensing and experience of operating and administering a native language immersion program, commitment letters of core staff, which, if awarded, should fill those roles within 30 to 60 days. FTE allocations may directly be charged to the grant. All recipients must comply with federal, tribal, or state laws in respect to criminal history checks and clearances. Key personnel should be identified for each role, and the responsibility they will provide to the project. Professional development should be made available in teacher training and for staff to create a successful and sustainable program. That's important. Next slide, please. Criterion 4, the development and hiring of FTEs is critical to fulfill the language immersion goals. Various areas of support may be considered from the tribal community at large to encourage the community engagement. Workforce development can encompass a wide range of creative means to include community buy-in, compensation, and volunteer arrangements can be made in a variety of ways to involve community members. This may include, for example, maintenance, teacher support, cultural staff, and community leaders. Parents and caregivers are, though, particularly, if not required, to be directly connected with the program their child is enrolled in. Next slide, please. Criterion 5, collaboration is the cornerstone of every successful program. So applicants must provide necessary demonstration of established partnerships, as well as the outreach support towards anticipated collaborations. Each community will develop their own approach and build upon strengths that may include a single approach. Appropriate training and professional development should be available, which may include acquiring specific teaching certificates or other types of trainings. The sustainability of the program beyond the grant term will require staff retainment of trained and certified individuals, which leads to the high education standards for the program. Next slide, please. Criterion 6, the breadth of the plan will actually indicate various segments of the tribal community that you may wish to provide as a structured focus. Models have shown the inclusion of parents, guardians, and caregivers of the younger students is crucial to carrying the learning into the home. The workforce development aspect may provide ways to harness those relative strengths and needed assistance to thread those nucleus members to that level of engagement and ownership. The program must connect with elders as the anchor and place them in a valued role to share the knowledge and allowing them to lead and be the backbone of the program. Every effort should be made for the inclusion as well as providing support with any technical challenges for elders. Next slide, please. Criterion 7. Many tribal communities will require the involvement of cultural activities. The involvement of societal groups, for example, should be dictated by the community at large, with the program mission indicating how and when to include them in the plan. While this section will be different across each application, the project should continue a well-rounded approach to pull in the community at large. Many language groups are rooted in religious and culturally significant practices, which should be incorporated into the program as appropriate. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. Criterion 8. And at this time, I will hand this over to Fred. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Dr. Dawkins. So for criterion 8, collaboration on health and social services, there is a maximum of 5 points to be received from grant reviewers. They will base their scoring on collaboration efforts perceived in your application that give detail on language program that work to address the physical, mental health of learners, highlight outreach and establish partnerships that encourage access to community social services and resources, and provide learners access to counseling services, addictions, mental health, employment resources, higher education, and other relevant areas of programming. Next slide, please. For criterion 9, collaboration with stakeholders and public relations, there's a maximum of 5 points to be received from grant reviewers. Applications that show effective and collaborative efforts pertaining to outreach with the greater community and public stakeholders should be emphasized and demonstrated in the all-of-community approach outlined in the grant program. The application should describe the development of these relationships and efforts to involve community members. Next slide, please. For criterion 10, collaboration in food sovereignty and food as medicine, there's a maximum of 5 points to be received from grant reviewers. Applications that give context into any collaboration efforts with local agricultures and food chains with culturally significant resources to continue the all-of-community approach, such as food as medicine, local, organic, and native food resurgence should be included in the language learning segments. Next slide, please. For criterion 11, any additional activities with your language programming efforts have a maximum of 5 points to be received from grant reviewers. Additional activities may include unique cultural circumstances, opportunities, and practices that bind the language to the community, activities that can be planned as appropriate language learning opportunities with no limit to how the language can be threaded into the activities itself. Successful applications should have the ability to show a wide range of planned activities, partnerships, initiatives, and collaborations. So get creative when undergoing your application process. Information pertaining to criterion 8 through 11 can be found on page 35 of the Living Languages Grant Program Notice of Funding Opportunity as well. Next slide, please. So for the last criterion, or for number 12, objectives, milestones, and timelines, there's a maximum of 15 points to be received from grant reviewers. In this part, grant applications must show a comprehensive 3-year plan that is expanded from 1-year increments and 3 measurable objectives that can be identified within that 3-year term. There is no official work plan form, but grant reviewers will score accordingly based on the information that is provided to them. We recommend utilizing generic online templates associated with objectives, milestones, and timelines for the project, and make sure that you identify the language goals toward a particular fluency objective and demonstrate a cohesive coordination of the overall language immersion goals. Next slide, please. All right, that was part of my part. Thank you, Dr. LaChance. You can take over now.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, at this time, we'll take some more Q&A for this last section, or if there's any other questions that you have. For Dennis, let's see here. Okay.
I think we handled most that were in the chat.
In the chat, okay.
Obviously,
Does anyone have any questions about the criterion? Because that is a very important aspect of the grant application and what you'll be scored on. If there's any clarification you needed on any of that at this time, while you have Dennis here. Okay, we do have a question. Are 3 measurable objectives required? And what if you only have 1 objective?
Darlene, I think, I mean, you would obviously have the one main objective of language immersion and revitalization. But otherwise, yeah, you do want to branch that out. There is 3. So let me know if you want a further discussion on that. But we are moving towards measurable objectives to see, as you're leading towards your language goals, where can we measure that so we can track the success of this grant from a fiduciary financial standpoint, which obviously we have to show, right? So if you have any more questions on that, hopefully that covers that loosely.
We do have another question. This grant speaks to immersion, but what if a tribe does not have full speakers left, but is in the process of revitalization and reclamation?
We've seen some workarounds with bringing in other language folks, those from across the border, other villages, other tribes, other bands. We've seen a lot. So hopefully that kind of helps you with that one. Yeah. So the next question, how does it demonstrate olive community? The parameters in the first part of the NOFO, as that leads into the criteria and those points, that should, in our goal, demonstrate your olive community approach in general, your structure, that you're touching on these different things as we feel they may exist in your community because it's shared by kind of all of us. There was more in there. We took some out because maybe it was pointed or what have you. But yeah, we want to make sure that your language program is working in cohesion and collaboration with other entities, other programs, other support groups, nonprofits, other even federal entities. Obviously, you can't, share funds and whatnot, but we're stronger together. The olive community approach. We're trying to do more together to move forward together. Community buy-in, if you will. So as you're producing your application, as you're keeping a bead on 2 CFR 200, the grant program. Everything you have in there as far as request for federal funding, your budget, necessary and reasonable have typically been the words they use when they define what's in 2 CFR 200. So, go through that if need be. Go through the citations that we have in the NOFO for those particular sections. Like I forgot off the top of my head with equipment and supplies, that's 2 CFR 200, 318. Just, walk within those guidelines and you should be fine.
Any other questions?
There was a question from Catherine Howe on seeing slides 8 and 9. I think they're pertaining to the criterion. This will be available for review after as well. But essentially 8 was collaboration on health and social services. And then 9 was collaboration on stakeholders and public relations, which you can find on the notice of funding opportunity as well.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Freddie.
Do we have any more questions? I believe that's it for right now. If you do have some questions, just feel free to put those in the chat. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So we will have available a resource toolkit, which will follow the webinar. And the toolkit will include immersion resources, native language teaching resources, early childhood best practices, and K-12 teaching resources and curriculum. We hope you find these helpful as you continue your application proposal. And please plan to receive these within 3 days of the webinar. At this time, we would ask you to add any final questions, and we will put the link into the chat at this time.
Marlon, good to see you on here. No, you don't need a letter of intent to apply, but I mean, if you feel it's something that you have to do at the tribal level to check a box, go ahead. You could go ahead and do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful.
Oh.
We do have the survey link in the chat if you'd like to go ahead and take some time to fill that out for us at this time. In the meantime, Dennis will continue answering any questions. So feel free to ask at this time as well. Does anybody have any questions about the criteria or any other information that was covered earlier? Please add that to the chat for us. And we do have a couple of links in the chat, so either one of those will take you to that survey. Looks like we do have a question. A couple questions now.
Dr. LaChance, are we going to have any more of these before August? Webinars. You can get technical assistance with Tribal Tech directly there, Eric. So
yes,
you can reach out and get a little bit more hands-on. The program coordinator, Rebecca, need to be specifically identified. It would help greatly. Like I said, if that person, the one who's going to be the POC, if they're on that first page of the SF424, if you pre-enroll in Grant Solutions, have them identified, and then in the key contacts throughout the application, that'd be great. The worry is we don't have that name. We don't have that information. So when we're putting that information in Grant Solutions, if it isn't there already, we're putting somebody that needs to be corrected later. So if we can have that up front, that would be awesome. Dave, multimedia. We're limited on everything in the application minus any links elsewhere. So as long as it's in the application, you'll be ranked on that. So unfortunately, we can't have recordings, we can't have video. Oddly, we've had that question come up recently. So that's pretty good that maybe we can move in that direction. Obviously, we got hurdles numerous hurdles to do before we do that, because we're just one DOI program of many, much less other programs in the federal funding world. Joe, yeah, I think the recording and the PowerPoint are going to be available. And then Sarah, good question for those that want to reach out to you.
Yes, thank you. Awesome. Okay, next slide, please. And please, folks, if you haven't filled out the survey, please complete that for us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. So at this time, we'd like to share with you our contact information as well. This is where if you have any other questions that you'd like to ask, we have contact information here for Dennis, as well as for Miss Jo Metcalf, who is the grant officer, and then also my information. And we also have included a QR code here in which you could place your phone over that right now if you'd like to try that. And with that, if you have any questions you'd like to ask or request information, you could also utilize that as well. Dennis, would you like to add anything else to this? Oh, I think you're muted.
Didn't have much to say. Just said, read the NOFO, read the NOFO, and then read the NOFO again. We have to abide by that now that it's out. So if there's any definitions on that, translations from 2 CFR 200, our grant program in general, again, I'll do what I can to make sure you eligible, or at least answer eligibility without, without knowing information on your background, but making sure you have complete application. Those are going to be key. Absolutely. And then after that, you're in the ranking phase. Hopefully that goes smoothly. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dennis. And yes, we'd like to remind you as well that information will be available on the OIED Technical Assistance webpage provided by Tribal Tech. And it's on the Living Languages Grant Program section. Okay, we'll go to our next slide, and I'll hand this over to Denise.
Great. Thank you so much, Kelly. This is just our opportunity to thank you all for attending. We wish you all the best in your applications. If there's anything that we can do to be of support, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you all for joining. This concludes our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone.
Thanks, folks. Good luck.
Well, this will conclude our webinar for today. Thank you.